Thank you very much. Northeast Science Movement, under the patronage of the Vigyan Bharati, to give me the opportunity to deliver my research on non-timber forest product and livelihood nexus with special reference to Northeast India. In last, in the course of the last 8,000 years, the forest cover of the world has been reduced to nearly half, from 62 million square kilometers to 33 million square kilometers, and most of these losses has occurred in the last few decades of the 20th century because of the expansion of agriculture, establishment of industry, construction of road, railway, and other development works. In spite of the large scale of the forest destruction leads to the habitat loss, shrinkage of the forest ecosystem, still non-timber forest product harvesting has a very significant and positive impact on the livelihood of the rural people, aboriginal people, and the forest dwellers. Diversity of the forest biomass, that is anti-FPS, ensures the food security and protects the safety net of the people, especially the forest dwellers. Those people are living in and around the forest. Their livelihood security is basically ensured by the non-timber forest product, and this forest biomass, particularly in northeast India, ensures the safety net of these people. If we see the history of India, in Indian forest management, the administration can be seen in the trace back to the 3rd century of the BC in the text of the Kautilya Arthashastra, where non-timber forest product is considered to be the highest priority, as in the Kautilya Arthashastra book, it is depicted that Drabhavan, that is non-timber forest product reserve forest, was established in the Maurya Empire. Even this can be seen in the pillars of the Emperor Ashoka. In the era of the Ashoka also, a script of detailed forest conservation, utilization land, utilization law can be seen. Our golden era of the India is the Gupta Emperor, Gupta period, very specifically. During the Gupta period of the India was having an elaborate forest and water and climatological policy apart from the agricultural policy. During the period, the forest played a significant role to ensure the livelihood security of the Aboriginal peoples, the forest dwellers of India, and also played a very important role to generate the revenue of the state. It means that in the early part of the history of India, that is from the 3rd BC to about the 7th or 8th century, the non-timber forest product is a important aspects in the forest management. During the medieval period, which is some extent it's a dark part in context to the forest management or forest protection, due to the large-scale attack of the invaders and the barbaric torture to the people, made the people to take shelter to the forest. And this is the phase of the migration of the people to the forest. During the Muslim period also, no such significant forest and environment policy can be seen. The forest was largely being exploited to the revenue generations only. And forest is being converted, the large-scale forest is converted for the agricultural land, as agriculture is converted to the source of the main revenue collection. Still, some orchard and some forest were protected for the gaming purposes, but the non-timber forest product interest of the Aboriginal people, the tribal people, was ignored in the large way. The approach of the Britishers in the forest, Indian forest, before 1857 was some extent like the medieval India, the unsustainable harvesting of the forest resources for the shipbuilding, the construction of the railway, and this is over exploitation to the forest area, or the harvesting of the timber. Due to the rapid declination of the forest resources, it was felt that the constructive way to see the forest of India, because the over exploitation and the depletion of the forest ecosystem leads to the long-term your revenue losses to the British government. With this concept, Imperial Forest Department was established under the leadership of Sir Brandes, a German British botanist. Under his leadership, first Forest Act was enacted in 1896, and a scientific, probably very elaborate Forest Act was enacted in Indian Forest Act, this 1927. In this act, British government of India got the absolute right on the forest resources, and this act took away the livelihood security of the Aboriginal and the forest dwellers and the local peoples in and around the forest. This has created insecurity to the Aboriginal people or tribal people of India. After the independence, the forest policy of the independent India, we have seen the first national forest policy in 1952, although it is under the backdrop of the Forest Act of 1927, where there is right of the forest products and forest land is under the government only. However, it is having some positive approach also, because they have proposed to increase the forest cover to 33% of the total Indian landmass. The introduction of the working plan as the guiding the forest management document at the state and the local level also a very significant development and positive way to look the forest policy in 1952. More dramatic change, actually, we have seen in the 19 decades of the last century with the emergence of the joint forest management. And this joint forest management is basically the call of the community to participate in the forest management. And this is a brightest example of this success of this joint forest management is the Arabari in the West Bengal, where the community has participated in the forest management. Their interest was taken care of, their livelihood security has been ensured, and this is a paradigm shift from the 1927 Forest Act or 1952 forest policy. In 1988, National Forest Policy came out with a generous call to the people to participate in the participations in the particularly the women stakeholder. This is also a very important call in the to the community or the people to participate in the forest management. In the recent addition to the recognition of the right of the forest dwelling tribals and the other communities traditionally living near the forest, in the Scheduled Tribes and other traditional forest dwellers recognition, the Forest Right Act 2006. This is a very important forest act, actually. However, this was not enacted by the Ministry of Environment and Forest. However, this is enacted by the Tribal Development Ministry. Still, the right to the forest was given to the Aboriginal people or the tribal people of the country. This is a paradigm shift from that is your British-centric approach to the modern approach. If we see the forest cover map of India, where the northeast, we can see the northeast contribute the largest forest cover, and In India, if you can see that about 72.9% is a non-forest area, and only 3.02% forest cover is having a very dense forest. Uh, but uh, but in the case of the Northeast is something different because Northeast is having a large forest cover, and in the Northeast India, particularly known as the Club of the Seven Sisters, comprises the state of the Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, Meghalaya, Manipur, Tripura, Mizoram, Nagaland, and in 1990, Sikkim is also recognized as a part of the Northeast India by the Ministry of Donor. If we see the forest cover map, forest cover of Northeast India, where Mizoram is having a largest forest cover, about 85.41%, followed by Arunachal Pradesh, 79.63%. However, the Assam is having 30.56% of the very dense forest cover. Uh, in totality about 30.30 about your 35% of the total land mass is under the forest cover. So this forest plays a very significant role in the livelihoods of the northeastern people, and particularly the tribal people or the aboriginal people of the Northeast India. If you see the population structure that is in the Northeast India, particularly the 7 states, which is based on the census report of the 2011, this Arunachal Pradesh is having about 68.79% of the tribal, Assam is having 12.49%, Manipur having 35.12%, Meghalaya having 86.15%, Mizoram is having 96.01%, and Nagaland is having 86.48%, and Tripura is having 31.75%. And so the large number of population is the tribal, and their subsistence and everything is depend on the non-timber forest product, and they are largely dependent on the forest, and so the forest plays a very significant role to their life. And this also plays a very significant sociological impact on the tribal populations. This tribal or the Aboriginal peoples of the Northeast India uses the plants and element in a different way. They use for it for the firewoods, medicine, edible essence, house construction, magical religious purposes, condiments, essence, stick pulps, insect repellents, and the fish poisoning, dye, bath sponge, hunting tools, packing material, detergent, rope, brooms. In so many ways they use the plant and animals as a as animal for their livelihood security, and their life is actually moves with the plant and animal products only. The forest policy of the 1988 is an approach to have the symbiotic relation between the forest department and the Aboriginal people or the tribal people. But till date, the symbiotic relation could not be developed as the platform such as the non-timber forest product is not given the proper priority. Why? Because the mindset of the forest departments in the Northeast Indian states, and particularly it is a timber-based forest management system and revenue-centric forest management. Still, they are having some some 1952 type of mentality, so that they think that they are the largest zamindar of the area, and they are interested to grow more timber yielding plants, not the non-timber forest product based plants. So there is always a conflict of the interest between the Aboriginal people or tribal people and the forest departments. If we have during our research we have asked the question, what is your perception about the forest management and view of the forest dwellers on the joint forest management. And we have got a very interesting result, because most of the people, say about 50%, have the mixed perceptions. They are not sure whether the joint management is successful, will be successful in the Northeast or not. And they are having a negative perception regarding the joint forest management. About 30% of the people are having the negative perception, and only 21% people are having the positive perception that okay, this will be helpful to the people of the people. Uh, when we have asked the same question to the forest officials, even we got a very mixed perception. Mixed perception. About 50% are having the mixed perception. About here also about 33% are having the negative perception, and less than 20% people are having a very positive perception. When we have asked the perception of the forest dwellers on the joint forest management program, with some specific that is your questions, like conflict of interest, improvement of the forest cover, interest of the forest protection, joint forest management will bring the change in their life, ecological restorations. About 75% they are saying it is a conflict of interest, because the forest dwellers want that the non-timber forest product should be given the top priority. However, the forest management, that is the forest officials, are giving the priority to the timber-based management. So this is the reason why this conflict is going on. JFMC was introduced in the northeastern states under the National Afforestation Program in the late and the early decades of the 20th and 21st century. The forest dwellers of the northeast largely depends on non-timber forest product, either directly or indirectly. Mostly directly, indirectly, very small portion. Mostly they are directly dependent on the non-timber forest product only. The forest inhabitants in the particular non-heavy collectors have a negative perception of the joint forest management, because it is continuous and emphasis on the timber-based forest management. So naturally, the interest of the non-timber forest product collectors are ignored, and naturally some conflict can be seen in the different areas. On the contrary, the plantations and the restorations of the non-timber forest yielding plants, and that could provide the support to the livelihood of the forest dwellers, were not given the due attention. This has the naturally leads to the generations and intensifications of the conflicts among the forest dwellers and the forest departments in connection to the utilization of the resources. And this is real challenges nowadays in the forest area of the northeastern states. This conflict are also perhaps led to the continuous felling of the trees at the geography. You can see the photograph where that tribal or aboriginal people that taken away all the plants. That is a joint forest management area, in the deep in the forest. But these plants are basically timber yielding plant and do not find any interest on it, and the naturalists did not have the full of sense to the involvement to the assisting the authorities and to protect the forest. And as the timber based policy decision at the village level did not take care of their interest, and they take away all the plants and used as a firewood or for making their house construction or sell it to the market. So naturally the whole concept of the restoration of the ecosystem or the livelihood security, non-timber forest product development has gone in the vain. So naturally, a comprehensive non-timber forest products policy is very important, because the non-timber forest product specific policy therefore need to be the framed and adopt to strike the balance between the biodiversity conservation in the forest and the provisions of the livelihood security to the forest dwellers. This is the only answer which can ensure the livelihood security and conflict management between the forest people and the tribal people or aboriginal people, and to ensure the livelihood security and the subsistence of the people, so that the ecosystem can be sustainable for long time. Thank you very much for your patience hearing.